All right, in this example, we're going to be looking at the composition of trig functions. Here we have the secant of the inverse sine of negative square root of 3 over 2. And so the first thing that I want to point out is that an inverse trig function always equals to some angle theta. So what we're really looking for, if you just break it down, we're looking for secant of theta. That's what we're trying to evaluate. And we know that in a circle, not a unit circle, but in any circle in general, the fraction for secant is r over x, because secant is the reciprocal of cosine. Cosine is x over r, so secant is r over x. So that's really what we're looking for, is this fraction. So let's go about finding it. We know that the inverse sine of negative square root of 3 over 2 equals to theta. If I bring the inverse sine to the other side, that's going to tell me that sine theta equals negative square root of 3 over 2. Now, if you remember, the restrictions for inverse sine say that theta has to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2, which means that we either have to be in the first or fourth quadrant. And we know that sine is negative in the fourth quadrant. So let's make a note of that whatever this angle is, it's going to be in the fourth quadrant, because theta has to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. And the only way that sine theta can be negative is if it's in the fourth quadrant. All right, so sine theta is y over r. In general, sine theta is y over r. And that's going to tell us that y is negative square root of 3 and r is 2. And I'm going to use that information now to find x using Pythagorean Theorem. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. We're going to have x squared plus negative square root of 3 squared equals 2 squared. And then we'll be able to solve for x. X squared plus, okay, the square and the square root and the negative all cancel, leaving me 3. 2 squared is 4. Bringing the 3 over. 4 minus 3 is 1. And taking the square root of both sides, we can see that x has to be 1. So now we know what x is, and now we know what r is. We can plug in to our original fraction and get our answer. So r was 2 and x was 1, and 2 over 1 is 2, so the answer is going to be 2. And to determine whether that answer is negative or positive, remember that we're in quadrant 4, and secant in quadrant 4 is positive. So we know that our answer is going to be positive 2.